Hey guys, Paul Glasgow here with Legally Armed America. I'm with Jacob from New Mexico. Not sure if you've heard much of Jacob's story. This happened last Saturday, and John Crump put out a short video on it earlier this week. And I wanted to wait and talk to Jacob about this. And actually, I was hoping that this might have been resolved by the time I talked to Jacob. But in a nutshell, Jacob's gun, his unserialized Polymer 80, was taken from him by a gun shop owner who did not know the law. So essentially, he broke the law by stealing Jacob's gun because he thought Jacob was too young to have the gun, and with it being an unserialized gun. And Jacob, I know I paraphrased and I really simplified that. If you could, first of all, welcome. And could you take us through a little bit of a detailed explanation from what I just laid out, but go into as much detail as you can, because I want our viewers to understand exactly what happened so this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Yeah, so I basically came in there. I was looking for a holster. He asked me to see if he could see the gun. Makes sense, since every holster fits differently, especially P80s with a different I think grip ankles is the word. So I went and got it. He looked at it. He noticed that there was no serial number on it, obviously. So then he asked for my ID. But at this point, I was kind of getting a little concerned. And anyways, I still hand it to him. He goes behind the counter and he tries to explain to me that I'm too young to own the firearm since it doesn't have a serial number, which here in New Mexico, there is no law that limits, or there is a law. It's USB 19, and I'm 20, knew that. So, yeah, me and him argued about it. I tried to explain everything to him. He just wouldn't budge. I went home. I double-checked the laws, came back, called the police, but unfortunately, police were just too busy at the time. They never showed up.
Well, that's nice to know. Police are too busy to help you out, right?
In Albuquerque, yeah.
So I'm curious, is it legal, not knowing your laws, and I know state to state the laws are different, but not knowing the laws in New Mexico, if you wanted to buy a serialized gun or own a serialized gun, handgun, could you have done that?
No, you have to be 21 to buy a handgun from the FFL in New Mexico.
So do you think he mistook that law for a serialized gun to also thinking it applied to an unserialized gun? For your age, I'm talking about.
He could easily, but I don't know. As an FFL license, you should know the laws. It's not.
I'm not making excuses for him. That's for sure. I'm just saying. I'm trying to figure out where this guy was going to be in that frame of mind where he felt like he was doing the right thing by taking your own personal property without permission. So essentially, you built this gun earlier that day, right? I mean, this is a brand new gun for you. You purchased all the parts and you assembled it yourself. So
not a single bullet through it.
When he said that he was going to hold it, what did he say was the next step? What was he going to do next? I mean, obviously, he's not just keeping it.
He was just, I mean, are you talking about when he took it behind the counter, or are you talking about when I just handed it to him out by the holsters?
When he essentially said, I'm not giving it back to you, what was he saying? I'm not going to give it back to you until, what was his next step going to be?
He didn't say he was going to give it back to me at all. He just said that I'm not going to give this back to you. I'm going to contact the ATF and have them destroy it.
So we have an FFL dealer who is essentially doing the bidding of what he thought was the ATF's job. In other words, he thought that you were wrong. So as an FFL, I don't know many FFL dealers that do the bidding of the ATF and confiscate weapons and then rat the customer out to the ATF. Personally, I think that's bad business. That's just me.
Yeah, it's bad luck, definitely.
I don't see people flocking in the front door of this guy's business anytime soon based on this kind of, if that's how he's getting the word out for it. Trust me, a lot of people are going to know who this guy is now. I don't think this is the way I want to be on people's radar screen as far as being a known FFL, but I'm just, you have to understand from my standpoint. Now, we had a conversation off the record before we started filming, so I believe your story, but you have to understand how the outside person looks at this. This sounds really strange that some FFL dealer that literally does this for a living would do something so stupid and ill-informed without making sure that he's right. I mean, while you were there, did he ever attempt, either one of y'all, did anybody attempt to look the law up while you were there and say, look, this is the law?
No, I mean, I just, at the time, I didn't know, I didn't have the links on me or anything. It would just been awkward if I just stood there, I don't know, in my head. Instead, I was just trying to explain it verbally to him, but
no, clearly it's not your job to do that because the guy should know the law already. But okay, so at what point, I know that the ATF, he did contact the ATF too, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
So in the meantime, during all of this, the ATF did notify him that he needed to return the gun to you because he was wrong. All right. So
Yeah.
this is the part that you and I were talking about where I would, the only word I know to describe it, this is a conundrum that
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
created because, okay, first he broke the law by taking your gun. As you and I were talking earlier, that would be no different than you coming to my house, my private property, you showing me your gun, me taking it from you and saying, Jacob, I'm not giving this back. Well, that is theft.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
even today, you could call the police again and say, hey, y'all never showed up last Saturday. This guy still has my gun. I want to press charges. You could do that. The ATF has no jurisdiction over somebody stealing somebody else's property. I don't care what it is. It is theft. It's absolute theft. So this guy is in possession right now of a stolen firearm. I mean, I don't know if he realizes that, but that's not a small thing, in my opinion. You know, isn't this the kind of stuff that we're trying to stop? You know what I mean? Stolen firearms being out on the street. This guy literally has one right now. So understanding how screwy and stupid the laws are, it was perfectly legal, right? And I want you to describe this. Perfectly legal for you to assemble, possess, and have this firearm. Explain a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. So yeah, in the state of New Mexico, we don't really have any ghost guns or DIY.
You can do
guns.
this when you say ghost gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. There's no laws. They don't recognize it as a firearm until you actually build it, and then it's just any other firearm, you know, that you legally can own.
So there was no obligation for you to do anything with that gun whatsoever.
No,
like
sir.
when you brought it in there, it was in the condition it needed to be in, whether it's now or 10 years from now. No, there's no other obligation on your part.
As long as I kept it in my possession,
it's yours.
It was perfectly legal for me.
That's right. Yeah, you couldn't sell it or give it away or something like that.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So now that he's got it, there are some very serious rules that involve an FFL receiving, taking into their possession a firearm. It's a different set of standards other than me. I'm not an FFL. So if I were to have taken your gun, the only law I broke at that point would have been I stole your gun.
Yeah.
However, with him being an FFL, he's broken ATF rules because you are not supposed to receive a firearm without it being on your books. So if an FFL takes a serialized gun in, they sign it, they log it into their books. I guess they call it their blue book, or they need a blue sheet or something like that. So they log it into their books. And that means now they possess that gun. So if something happens at that point, if there's no transfer from that FFL, there's going to be questions asked. Definitely. Well, there's nothing to put on his books right now because it's unserialized, right?
Yeah, correct.
So, but this is the conundrum. He's agreed to give it back to you, right? The ATF told him, give it back to Jacob, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they can't give you an unserialized gun, right?
Yeah.
And FFL has to serialize it. That's that stupid federal law and everything that they put out there. The FFL now cannot transfer an unserialized gun. It is a complete gun, and they cannot transfer an unserialized gun. So you said this FFL dealer now is going to serialize it, right?
Yes, sir.
Now,
he is.
Okay, here's the screwy part. While at 20, you can build that Polymer 80 as being unserialized. However, you can't buy a serialized handgun in the state of New Mexico, can you?
No, you have to be 21.
So
fortunately,
that's where you and I were talking earlier. How in the hell does this gun get transferred back to you?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to talk to people, trying to figure it out myself, sir.
Yeah, because I mean, he's bound by the ATF rules and regulations to not let you have it unserialized. He's also bound by the ATF to not let you have it serialized. But the ATF told him to give it back to you. I am so curious at what condition you receive this gun in, if you even receive it. This is the craziest story to me. I mean, you talk about painting yourself into a corner. This is something, you know, look, the ATF could put this guy out of business for this. I mean, this is bad decision after bad decision.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time either, because I've heard on John was telling me that there's actually other police reports of him doing the same exact thing. Fortunately, though, they got resolved a lot sooner than my case. I think it's just because how young I am is why he was more confident, I guess, or something this time.
Yeah, he's trying to intimidate you. He thinks you're
Yeah.
young and stupid too. So
And so,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry. And so I'm also really curious because if he does serialize it, I don't know what the numbers he would put first off, and then if he does serialize and give it to me, he technically graffitied my gun, right? Or
Yeah.
not graffiti. I don't know what the word would be, but like it'd be as if someone put a serial number on your car or something like that.
Right. Right. So if it's serialized, then it's a serialized firearm. So then you could sell
Mhm.
it, right?
I don't know exactly because I'm only 20, so I don't know how that
Well,
exactly
yeah, there
works.
you go. Well, I
But
guess once you're
yeah,
21, you could legally sell it to
yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
My advice to you is I would sell it because now it's registered. Once he puts that
Mhm.
serial number on there, now you have a registered firearm. The government knows who has it, where you are, and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah,
mean, what a backdoor way to get your gun registered with the federal government, right?
yeah, for free, I guess.
That's right. Yay. I
Yeah.
want to look. I don't want to do any favors for this gun store owner. I think that
Mhm.
he's a shady SOB. I think the things he did to you are wrong. We talked about some other stuff that I think makes him more of an ass and more shady. And I do want to go into those things. And this is why I think this is crappy of him. You told me that not only did this gun store owner, being in the wrong, not only did he didn't try to correct himself, like the
Mhm.
ATF had to correct him. He called
Yes,
the
sir.
ATF to rat you out, and they had to correct
Mhm.
him. He also reported you to your place of employment, right?
Yes, sir. He did.
So I just want to know your opinion on that.
Oh,
For
I
what
think it's crazy.
for what reason would somebody do that other than wanting to get you fired? I mean, why would
Yeah, I mean,
somebody do that?
he was. I just, you know, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it almost seems like he wanted to try to inflict as much damage as he could for whatever reason. It's just that was a crazy part to me that I even heard about that at work.
Yeah. I,
So
I guess this is a good life lesson to you being a 20-year-old. Make sure you're right before you become an a-hole, right?
yeah,
Just make
of
sure you at
course.
least are right. I mean, because it's
Yeah.
really going to feel bad and sting a whole lot worse whenever you're wrong and you're an a-hole about it. So,
Mhm.
again, I'm not calling for anything. I just want to be very, very clear because I know some of the nut jobs that watch my channel. I'm not calling for anything against this place, which is called the Shooter's Den in Albuquerque, New
Right.
Mexico. What I'm saying is choose a better place to do your business. I don't want to
Mhm.
see any harm come to this guy, no harm to come to his place or
Right.
anything like that. But I don't want him to be able to make additional money off of people, knowing that he apparently is somewhat of a shady person, allegedly. Let me just say that to
Yeah.
make it as clean as I possibly can. Okay,
Mhm.
so what are your plans going forward? Obviously, you still don't have the gun that you spent money on and you
Right.
built. What's your next step?
Well, my plans right now, contacting some other people who are even more familiar with the law than I am, try to see if there's any route I can go to either A, get my firearm back or get compensation for the firearm.
Now you said
Um,
that the guy had you spoken to this gun shop owner since then, and
mhm.
he's acknowledged that he's going to give your gun back, correct?
He wants to give me my gun back, but however, he's saying that he doesn't see any legal way that he can, since the serialization and stuff like that.
So at this point, whose responsibility is it to resolve this? I mean, clearly, I
Uh,
think he has to pay you for it. I mean, at least.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But right now, he's told me that he's talking to the ATF. He's trying to see if he can work something out. So right now, I mean, I'm waiting for him, but at the same time, I'm also looking into this myself, obviously.
Well, if he's waiting for the ATF to do him a solid and do him a favor and say, "Hey, we're going to bend the rule for you this time and let you give Jacob's gun back to you serialized," don't expect that to happen. My guess is
Mm,
he's going to have to destroy that gun, or else he's going to
yeah.
have to purchase it from you, where he can resell it as a serialized gun to somebody that's 21 or older over there.
Even if he destroys it, though, I think he should still probably pay me back for
No
it because
question.
he
Oh, no
is.
question.
Yeah.
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 I'm certainly not saying he's off the hook for that. No,
Oh
no
yeah.
matter what happens with the gun going forward, if you don't receive it back, you should be
Mhm.
compensated fully for it. In fact, I would encourage you to see any other routes that you would take in for anybody else. That if let's just say this, had I stolen your gun from you, you probably would have sued me for it. I
Oh,
think you
definitely.
should treat
Mhm.
this the same way. You should treat this as somebody who took this gun from you.
Mhm.
Look, geography shouldn't matter. Like
Yeah.
just because you're standing in a gun store give somebody the right to steal your property. Like I said earlier, if you came to my house, I kept your gun and said, get out of here, Jacob, I'm keeping this gun. You call the cops on me. They put me in jail, put me in handcuffs for stealing a firearm, no doubt, for stealing a legitimate operational firearm. He should be treated no different than that. So I don't see how the law would apply any differently from him just because the geography is different. We're at a different location. Really? No, you stole my firearm. Yeah. I don't care if I'm on the moon, at the beach, at a supermarket. It doesn't matter where I'm at. You took my stuff.
Yeah.
Without
exactly.
my permission.
Theft is theft,
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, I wish you all the best. And I mean, I'm going to give you my contact information. I hope you'll reach back out to me and let me know what transpires after this. I would encourage you to not let this go. Don't be the nice guy. You seem like a nice guy. Don't be a nice guy in this. You're too young to let somebody try to intimidate you and treat you poorly. And this is your Second Amendment rights. I mean, I look at a lot of stuff in my videos, like when we talk about red flag gun laws and things like that. I look at the timing of things. Okay. Things happen at weird times. Coincidences happen at weird times.
Right.
You said you have an AR-15. You have 2 guns, right?
Yes, sir.
So you still have
not one.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, you had. So you
Yeah.
have an AR-15. Let's say for some reason, because of where you're located at, you got that handgun for personal protection because you didn't want to have a long gun with you. So you could be defenseless right now. Somebody breaks into your place tonight, beats the crap out of you, and takes the rest of your stuff that this guy didn't steal. Right.
Yeah.
Well, who's to blame? This guy stole your protection, your personal protection. He literally has.
Absolutely.
I look at stuff like that. You are defenseless right now. And I think that's wrong. I don't think there's ever any kind of a justification for somebody to make another person defenseless. And in this case, especially under these circumstances.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Thank you, sir.
Well, I wish you the best, man. And like I said, please stay in touch.
Absolutely.
I think that this is a horrible situation. This guy here, I will be shocked if the ATF does not put this FFL out of business. It will shock me if they don't just tell him you need
definitely.
to close up. So
I'd be a little offended if nothing bad happens to him. If he just gets a slap on the wrist, it'll be odd. Yeah.
Well, I want you to make this commitment to me. I will put you on blast if you keep shopping at this guy's place. Do not spend another penny at this man's place.
Yeah, don't worry. I don't even think I'm welcomed anymore.
Well, yeah, right. Exactly. There's definitely other places to spend your money over there. And I would certainly seek out a better place that has somebody who knows the law. And then that one thing real quick before we go, one thing that really surprised me is, and I'm not saying that a younger person would know better, but I'm picturing in my head when I originally heard this story, you sent me an email last week, and I'm picturing some old, crotchety guy that's just like walking with a cane and, only likes to shoot, I don't know, lever action guns and stuff like that. And he carries like revolver. No, you can't have that. You can't have the ghost gun, Sonny. I mean, that's what I'm picturing in my mind. You said this thing's like 30 years old.
Oh yeah. And
that's
then
a young man.
His whole shop is themed after the Marines too, which is surprising. I'm assuming then he's an ex-Marine because I mean on his card he has a Marine hat on the skeleton. So, but it's just crazy that he used to be in the military and he's trying to take my rights. It's like, it's crazy.
That's a crappy thing right there. It sounds like he might have eaten too many red crayons when he was in the Marine Corps.
I guess.
Look, man, again, keep me in the loop. Let me know what happens. What your next step is. I'll give you my information before we get off of here. And again, I wish you all the luck, man. And I hate that you're going through this, but I will tell you this. I a gazillion percent support what you're doing. And I admire the hell out of you for what you're doing, because most young people these days, first of all, they're not educated anyway. No offense. Young people are not known for being the smartest people in the world right now. It seems like social media and, things like that are what usually we feel like are educating the younger people. I admire you for being that person that's not kind of falling into the fold like that, for sticking up for your own rights, not just letting somebody else bully you and treat you like that and going, oh, I don't want to get into trouble, so I'm just going to leave that alone. No, I admire you for pursuing this, and I think you're doing the right thing. And I hope that you continue on with the rest of your life being assertive like this and realizing that you do have rights, especially when it comes to the Second Amendment. And don't let people just bully you into taking those rights from you. So I truly admire what you're doing here.
Thank you, sir. That means a lot to me that you saying that. Thank you.
All right, Jacob. Well, look, man, I appreciate you hanging out with me, and we will follow back up once you receive the gun or once something takes place. I'll have you back on and we'll talk about it again.
Alrighty, sounds good. I'll see you.
Hey guys, quick update on this story. About 2 hours after Jacob and I finished our discussion last night, he reached back out to me and said that he'd been notified that now the police department had taken possession of his firearm. Remember, we were discussing in the video how I was perplexed that how can this FFL manage to get this gun back to Jacob without being in some kind of trouble with the ATF, because they could not transfer an unserialized gun. They couldn't have an unserialized gun that they transferred to anybody. So they could not give the unserialized gun back to Jacob. On the other hand, they claimed that they were going to serialize the gun. The gun shop did, because they could not let one leave the store that was unserialized. So by serializing it, now it was an actual serialized firearm, and Jacob being 20 and not 21, he could not accept one. He couldn't receive one. So there was no way, serialized or unserialized, that Jacob was going to receive his firearm without the FFL violating some or one of ATF's rules or regulations out there. So this is how they're doing it. By the FFL giving the gun to the police department, because remember, it is reported stolen. So by them giving it to the police department, that does not require a transfer right there. And the police department is not required to run a background check or to do any kind of a NICS check on Jacob in order to give the gun back to them. So this is the only way that gun gets back to Jacob without someone else getting in trouble. Now, I asked Jacob this morning, in light of this news, are you still going to press charges? He said, yes, absolutely. I commend this young man for doing that. I think that people should take a lesson from this and don't just let stuff go away, because that's the intent. The ATF probably told this FFL owner, because obviously the FFL owner is a friend of his. I mean, we often wonder who likes the ATF. I think now we know. The Shooter's Den is a big fan of the ATF, apparently. We wonder why the ATF sets up a booth at SHOT Show. Well, I think we know now. It's for people like this to go visit them and hang out with them and, talk about each other and, maybe, grab each other on the butt a little bit. But nevertheless, this guy, Shooter's Den, clearly is a friend of the ATF. And the ATF looks like they were trying to get this guy to where he was not going to violate anything, and probably suggested to him, hey, give it to the cops so they can give it to the kid, and maybe he'll just not press any charges because, hey, he got his gun back. So again, kudos to Jacob for sticking to his guns, no pun intended. This is a big deal. This should not be just one of those things where you roll your eyes. I will say this also, according to Reddit, it looks like this is not the first time some shady dealings have happened at the Shooter's Den. I would same thing we said in the video, encourage everybody to spend your money elsewhere. Find a more reputable company that doesn't have a reputation like the Shooter's Den, and don't spend a dime there.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.